After devastating heartbreak, she had found a second chance at love.
He was like a ray of sunshine.
Even though she was hesitant, she really did trust him.
But on Halloween night, her future ended in violence.
She was shot with a shotgun.
What's even more horrific, this murder happened right in front of her two girls.
Girls, go straight home. Run!
Was it the work of a deranged killer?
He had on like a white mask.
It was a full Halloween costume.
This is every horror movie come to reality.
There's a real boogeyman out there.
Or had new love turned sour?
Get off of me!
He would say, I'm not gonna allow you to be happy.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
No! Oh, God!
October 31st, 2015. It's Halloween in Brandon, Florida, a booming suburb just 20 minutes east of Tampa.
It's almost a country town with a city feel. It has grown tremendously.
Just far enough away where you get that small town feel, then also really great schools. If you're raising children, it's an area you'd want to choose because there's so much to offer.
And when Halloween rolls around, the sense of community really shines.
We have trunk or treat, and it's a controlled setting where you can watch your kids trick or treat in a giant circle going car to car.
It's always a fun event. It's always a safe event.
But even in the safest community, danger lurks in the shadows. Just before midnight, the local 911 center is flooded with calls from an apartment complex off Providence Road.
Residents winding down from a night of trick-or-treating heard multiple gunshots just outside their doors, and they barricaded themselves inside for their own safety.
It doesn't get scarier than that, especially on Halloween night.
When officers arrive, they're met by a grisly scene.
They find a young woman sprawled on the ground, covered in blood.
There's at least one gunshot wound.
The victim is unconscious and barely clinging to life.
Paramedics got there, and they worked quickly to render aid. An officer located a purse near the woman, which they searched, and found a wallet and a driver's license.
The ID says that she's 35-year-old Tiffany James.
Tiffany James had never been a stranger to hard work. After graduating high school in the late 90s, the Tampa native dedicated her life to her career.
She ended up working in college admissions and recruiting.
She was a strong woman trying to succeed in life.
And when she met Daryl Williams, Tiffany believed she'd found the man who would take care of her forever.
He had the car. He had the looks. He had the personality. He had the lines that Tiffany fell for. Hook, line, and sinker.
Daryl, this is amazing.
I'm glad you like it, baby.
This is exactly what I needed after today.
Daryl was older. He had a good job working at a local factory. He was stable. He was comfortable.
He had a little bit of money, and that's money he enjoyed spending on her.
So for most women, this is very appealing that now you become the center of this person's world. And he really did shower her with love.
Daryl said all the right things, including, I want you to be mine.
Thank you.
And they started talking about a family.
They ended up moving in together, and to her joy, she found out that she was pregnant.
Tiffany was happier than she'd ever been before.
Soon, Tiffany and Daryl were raising twin daughters.
Tiffany really was enjoying the life that she and Daryl were building together.
But after nearly a decade together, Tiffany began to suspect that Daryl was stepping out on her.
It turns out that Daryl was quite the ladies' man.
For Tiffany, this was tragic. She was a strong woman, and so she left. She moved in with her mom for a bit, and then she ended up moving to Brandon, Florida.
Tiffany believed Brandon was the perfect Tampa area suburb to raise her daughters.
She was on her own, and she and her girls were now living in an apartment off Providence Road.
Everything that she did was connected to her love for her children.
Anybody that knew Tiffany knew that these children were her world.
Tiffany focused on her girls and her career and put her love life on hold.
That's why it came as a complete surprise when Tiffany fell for her friend, 38-year-old Vernon Hall.
Late summer 2015, she ends up connecting with a friend.
They'd known each other for quite a few years.
And over time, that friendship became something more.
The girls are finally asleep.
You are so good with them.
Man, they make me happy. You make me happy too.
You mean so much to us, Vernon.
She watched how he interacted with the girls. He loved the girls like they were his own.
Over the next 3 months, the future was looking bright for Tiffany and her girls.
Tiffany had made a very comfortable home for her and her daughters and Brandon, and she was looking forward to where her relationship was going with Vernon.
And on October 31st, 2015, Tiffany, Vernon, and the girls all went out trunk-or-treating together. She was very excited. She wanted to give her girls a taste of the suburban dream life.
It was supposed to be a great night for the family.
One at a time.
Instead, after a flurry of calls reporting shots fired at Tiffany's apartment complex, Halloween night has taken a horrific turn.
The police find Tiffany covered in blood on a neighbor's doorstep.
As paramedics rush Tiffany to the hospital, police turn their attention to her neighbor, who says she saw the whole thing.
I was sitting on my couch and I heard a bang and the door flew open. And I ran to the door and the woman was laying on the ground and the male was pointing the shotgun down at her.
When the neighbor saw the gun, she quickly tried to find shelter herself.
And I slammed the door and I was holding on to the door.
Unfortunately, the neighbor can't identify the shooter.
She said she couldn't see his face.
He had on like a white mask.
Nearly 2 years after splitting up with the father of her children, Tiffany James thought she had found happiness with a new man.
Vernon treated her like a princess. She was extremely happy.
She really is enjoying spending time with Vernon. And as a family, on Halloween night, they all decide to go trick-or-treating together.
But the night ends with Tiffany sprawled on her neighbor's doorstep, bleeding from a massive gunshot wound.
Her injuries appeared consistent with 2 gunshot blasts at close range, one in the back and one in the face.
It makes it a much more horrific scene when someone is shot with a shotgun.
It was a horrific, bloody mess.
Paramedics have already rushed Tiffany to the hospital, but there's nothing doctors can do.
The damage was just too extensive, and she was declared dead upon arrival.
Now it's up to detectives with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to find her killer.
The police get some luck. A nearby neighbor who was witness to this.
She told police she heard a bang. Her door flew open, and she saw Tiffany lying just feet away from her door.
According to her neighbor, the real shock was the man standing over Tiffany with a gun.
Describe him for me. How tall do you think he was?
He looked probably like 5'6", 5'7". He wasn't very, very tall. And he was probably like medium built. He wasn't bulky. And he had on like a long black costume. And then he had on like a white mask. I don't remember like the details of the mask, but I know it was a white mask.
This is the thing that horror movies made of.
Did he say anything to the woman?
No, he didn't say nothing.
What do you hear?
when the door kind of opened, it was like she was yelling. It was like, no, no, like that, like a yell kind of thing.
She hears Tiffany's last words. She hears the gunshots ringing out.
And a few moments later, I heard a knock, and then it was like a little nudge on the door. I opened it, and I saw it was a kid.
That knocking was coming from Tiffany's daughter, who had just witnessed her mother being shot.
I pulled her inside, and then I closed the door again. And like a few minutes later, the second child came in.
These girls were witness to this masked man walk up, point a gun, and repeatedly shoot their own mother dead.
Tiffany's daughters are far too traumatized to provide any statements to authorities. So in the meantime, the Children's Advocacy Center takes the girls into their care.
When something traumatic occurs, it can be very difficult to remember exactly what happened.
For children, it's difficult to even know what is death. What am I even experiencing in this moment? So there's so much going on that their young minds are trying to process and understand in this moment.
Unfortunately, the neighbor who witnessed the shooting has no idea who Tiffany's killer could be.
Tiffany was a quiet neighbor and never really caused any trouble. So nobody was paying attention to who was calling in and out of her house.
But she did say that there was a boyfriend that came around.
The neighbor didn't know the boyfriend's name. She really didn't know Tiffany all that well. She just knew that Tiffany lived there with her girls, and what she assumed was a boyfriend would come over from time to time.
Canvassing the surrounding apartments, however, does produce a possible lead.
There was one neighbor that said that they saw something. They saw a silver car fleeing. There were no lights on, and that's what made it noticeable.
That individual may be a suspect or maybe they're a witness, but it's worth checking out to see if that can lead to the person who actually committed this crime.
And as detectives process the crime scene, they make a crucial discovery.
At the scene, police find a spent 20-gauge shotgun shell. They find her purse. They find an iPhone that's covered in blood.
They also find an older flip phone.
Did Tiffany have a second phone or did someone else leave it behind?
The bad guy may have dropped his phone in his haste to get away.
When detectives trace the phone's number, they discover the phone belonged to a man named Vernon Hall.
Police needed to find this man and figure out if he killed Tiffany and why.
Detectives investigating the murder of 35-year-old Tiffany James have just connected a cell phone found at the crime scene to a man named Vernon Hall. As they dig into Vernon's background, they discover that he's been dating Tiffany for the past several months.
When Tiffany's body was found, they found 2 cell phones. One of those cell phones belonged to Vernon. So law enforcement is thinking, did Vernon inadvertently drop that phone after he killed Tiffany James?
Was Vernon the man in the mask?
We know that Tiffany James was dating Vernon. So automatically, Vernon's going to be a potential suspect in this investigation.
When detectives search the contents of the flip phone, they find nothing to reveal Vernon's whereabouts that night.
There was no record of calls to Tiffany that night, no angry text messages, really no indication of recent contact.
But a preliminary search of Tiffany's phone uncovers a series of recent flirty texts from a contact identified as Daryl.
When they look through these messages between Tiffany and Daryl, he's even being romantic and seeing how he can connect with Tiffany.
Which leaves the detectives with 2 questions. Who is Daryl? And did Vernon know about the relationship?
Seeing that these messages between Tiffany and Daryl are flirtatious in nature, it might cause one to think, is something going on here? Does he have feelings for her or are they involved?
Was this potentially some love triangle gone wrong?
Just hours after Tiffany's murder, detectives locate Vernon Hall at his home. and bring him into the station for questioning.
Vernon is extremely upset. He's distraught over the death of Tiffany James.
When's the last time you saw her? Was it nighttime?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because I'm not a problem.
He shares that actually Tiffany, the kids, himself, they spent the night trunk or treating, had a great time. And the plan was for Tiffany to take the children back home to take baths, get ready for the night. And they actually planned to come back over to Vernon's house.
The plan was for her to go home and then come back?
Yeah, take a quick shower. The girl want to come back. He's going to get home. She should be right back. And then, obviously, I fell asleep. I didn't hear from her. So I started calling and try to see what was wrong.
Vernon goes on to tell the detectives that he had no idea what was going on until they called him and began to ask him about Tiffany.
That raises questions for law enforcement. If you're with Vernon all day long, you're trunk or treating, you're hanging out with him, you got to shower in your house. Why are you sending her back to her house to shower so that she can come back to your house? Something doesn't make sense.
Based on the evidence at the scene, detectives are skeptical of his story.
They asked Vernon, why was your old flip phone at the scene?
I gave this to Tiffany.
According to Vernon, it was an old flip phone that he's had for years, and he just gave it to Tiffany.
Vernon claimed that Tiffany had been using it before she got her new phone.
Despite pressure from detectives, Vernon maintains that he would never hurt Tiffany or her girls.
Vernon swore he had nothing to do with Tiffany's murder.
He said it was a good relationship, that they really were falling for each other.
He makes it clear that they have been dating a few months and they really don't have any issues. It's in that honeymoon stage of their relationship.
So how could they suspect him of killing the woman that he loved?
That's when Vernon shifts the blame to another man in Tiffany's life.
Do you know of any issues that she's had with anybody else?
Yes, her kid's father.
Her kid's father, do you know what his name is?
Daryl Williams.
Interestingly enough, Vernon brings up that he is quite aware of Daryl and their relationship.
He says that he knew that Daryl Williams and Tiffany James were having issues. He knew that Daryl had been texting Tiffany.
She also had issues as far as crazy text messages where he would say, I'm not going to allow you to be happy. Before you be happy, I'll do X, Y, Z. I realized kind of what I'm dealing with.
Okay. And when you say kind of what you're dealing with, you're saying because he was hostile towards her? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
He also tells detectives about a strange incident that occurred just days earlier.
Vernon shares with the detectives that a few days prior to the murder, he felt as if someone was following them.
And what kind of vehicle is that?
A Yukon GMC. Not sure if it's a Denali or not. All black, dark, 10.
Could you see who was driving it?
Could not, because the one was way too dark.
He said, now, while he couldn't get a look at the driver, he did see one thing.
And it had a Dixon mask hanging on the rear mirror.
You say Jason mask, you mean the old hockey goalie style mask?
Yes.
Now, law enforcement, the wheels are turning.
They hadn't told Vernon anything about Tiffany's killer wearing a mask up until that point.
How would he know that?
Is Vernon attempting to throw detectives off his trail? Or had he caught a glimpse of Tiffany's killer?
He really may have had concerns for his own safety or Tiffany's safety.
Vernon did seem genuine in his statement to police, so they decided to focus on vetting his story about Daryl.
It would only make sense that detectives would look into Daryl. He was sending threatening text messages. They have kids together, so there could possibly be a motive.
When detectives pull Daryl's criminal record, their suspicion grows.
Daryl Williams wasn't a stranger to the criminal justice system. He had done at least 3 years in prison for an attempted robbery charge. In addition, Daryl Williams had other crimes in the past. He was accused of drug charges. He had a racketeering charge that was eventually dropped. And he had multiple domestic violence injunctions filed against him.
He had a tendency to be hot-headed, to be violent.
Detectives make tracking him down to question him about his relationship with Tiffany James their top priority.
Daryl, however, is MIA.
They've tried calling him multiple times. They've tried going by his last known residence.
They are trying to contact anyone who may know where Daryl is or has any information about Daryl.
Detectives soon learn that Daryl is dating a woman named Carolyn Strickland.
Daryl may have had involvement in this, so maybe she knows. Maybe he told her something.
Detectives got Carolyn's address and they found her at home.
Can I help you?
We're looking for Daryl Williams.
He's not here right now.
Unfortunately, Daryl wasn't there.
She actually does not know where Daryl is.
When was the last time you saw Daryl?
He stayed over Halloween night, left the next morning to go to work around 7 a.m.
Without even prompting her, Carolyn alibis Daryl out. She told detectives that he had spent Halloween night with her and they had been home all night.
She claims Daryl was sleeping next to her the entire night.
Hillsborough County detectives searching for Daryl Williams have discovered that his new girlfriend, Carolyn Strickland, can vouch for his whereabouts the night Tiffany James was murdered.
Carolyn says that Daryl was with her and asleep during the time of the murder.
He was with you all night?
Yes.
Per Carolyn, there's no way Daryl could have done anything violent towards Tiffany.
Detectives ask Carolyn to come down to the station for a formal statement,
Okay, sure.
and she agrees.
But just understand, this is voluntary. If you don't want to talk to me, you can stand up right now, walk out that door. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes, sir.
Carolyn willingly talks to the detectives.
Well, let's go back to Halloween night. If I remember correctly, you said that he was at your house before you got there, correct?
Yes.
Carolyn says that when she got home on Halloween night, there was Daryl, that it was around 8:30.
What did you guys do?
When I went home, when I got in the house and we sat on the porch for a little bit, it was trick or treat.
She went in the house and she got them something to drink.
They were handing out candy. They were having beer, watching trick-or-treaters.
According to Carolyn, she and Daryl sat outside until 10:30 p.m.
She says that Daryl got tired and tapped out.
He went to sleep.
But Carolyn admits that she wasn't home with Daryl all night.
After saying that he didn't leave, she later reveals that she left.
My son had called. He had went out with some friends. It was late, and so I had to go pick him up.
But she says they didn't come straight home.
What'd you guys do?
We went to Steak and Shake because my mom had called. She wanted food.
Did you go anywhere else other than those places?
No, sir.
They get home around 12:30.
Carolyn's timeline immediately raises red flags about Daryl's whereabouts during the time Tiffany was killed.
While Carolyn was out picking up her son and getting him food, Daryl had approximately 2 hours of just being alone.
Was there enough time for Daryl to leave, put on his costume, go confront Tiffany, all goes bad, and he still gets back home in time?
Despite detectives' efforts to get Carolyn to incriminate Daryl, she doesn't budge.
Carolyn swore that Daryl never left her house on Halloween.
Carolyn claims Daryl was in the same position he was when she left, sound asleep in her bed.
Of course, she could be lying to protect her man.
But detectives believe there may be another reason for Carolyn's defense.
This time frame also could open up the door for Carolyn.
When she left that night to run an errand, was it to commit murder?
Carolyn may have gone through Daryl's phone.
She, too, could have seen all the text messages between Daryl and Tiffany. Was that enough for Carolyn to actually want to get Tiffany out of the picture?
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Was it really Carolyn hiding behind the mask and robe?
Nobody knows for sure if it was a man or a woman who pulled that trigger.
Okay, free to go for now.
Even though detectives were suspicious, they had nothing on Carolyn. They had to let her go.
Shortly after talking to Carolyn, detectives finally make contact with Daryl Williams.
When they find him, this is what he says. You want to talk to me? Talk to my lawyer instead.
They can't track this guy down. And then finally, when they do, he's got a lawyer, a high-powered attorney in Tampa.
Legally, it's his right and it shouldn't be held against him. But in the real world, when someone invokes their right to remain silent, law enforcement starts asking themselves why. Why is he not willing to cooperate regarding the death of the mother of his children?
So now we know he's got something to hide.
And as detectives begin zeroing in on Daryl and Carolyn, they uncover a damning piece of evidence.
Detectives decided to look into the cars registered to Carolyn and Daryl, and when they pulled Carolyn's records, sure enough, they caught a big break.
Detectives find out that Carolyn's car matches the description of the silver car fleeing the scene.
Detectives investigating the murder of Tiffany James have just discovered evidence that could connect her ex's new girlfriend, Carolyn Strickland, to the scene of the crime.
According to one witness, there was a silver car with the lights turned out, leaving the scene.
Detectives find out that Carolyn's car matches the description of the silver car.
Based on this new information, detectives subpoena Carolyn's phone records.
One of the biggest tools that law enforcement uses is the ability to triangulate a person's position based upon their phone records. Every time you make a call, every time you use data on your phone, it's attributed to certain cell phone towers.
Cell phones are probably detectives' best friends.
And the records from Carolyn's phone provide them with the break they need.
Carolyn's phone pinged to the location of Tiffany's apartment during the time of the murder.
But did that mean that Daryl's text messages to Tiffany drove Carolyn to commit murder?
If Carolyn thought Daryl was trying to get back with Tiffany, maybe she decided to eliminate the threat.
Or was it possible she'd driven Daryl to the crime scene?
Daryl's entire alibi depended upon Carolyn's claim that he was asleep in bed while she was out that night.
Hoping to learn more details about Daryl's relationship with Tiffany, detectives reach out to Tiffany's sister for an interview.
She reveals that they had extremely passionate relationship. Yeah, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, almost oil and water.
It's very tumultuous. They argue a lot. They fight. I've witnessed, him, be volatile, out of, pocket.
She says that in one instance, she was forced to intervene.
Take care of your kids.
So what? You ain't
Get off of me!
playing nothing around. He had her hand up against the wall, and I tried to kind of break him up.
I'm gonna call the police.
The abuse went beyond physical abuse. He also emotionally was abusive and manipulated her.
Adding more fuel to the fire, Daryl had just recently gone to family law court in an attempt to get sole custody of his daughters.
When you think about domestic violent relationships, even after the relationship has ended, you may see the individual try to regain power and control. It's not unusual if that individual actually start trying to get custody of the kids by saying that the mother is incompetent to raise the kids on her own.
Police started suspecting, is this a possible custody disagreement gone bad? Public records and police records show that both Daryl and Tiffany had put out injunctions or protective orders against each other in the past.
She was saying, he's stalking me, he's threatening me. He turned around and asked for a restraining order himself. It went back and forth.
This is really commonplace when it comes to abuse, because again, this is a way to manipulate. So if fingers are pointed towards the abuser is going to point the finger back to the abused. And so this really speaks again to that cycle of violence.
Did Daryl take the cycle of violence to a deadly conclusion? For the moment, detectives don't have the proof they need to convict him.
Police still couldn't place him at the crime scene or put the gun in his hands.
We have a shooter who's wearing a mask with no real identification.
Pulling Daryl's phone records proves to be a dead end, too.
After obtaining Daryl's phone record, it indicates that he was at Carolyn's house all night.
But that doesn't rule out the possibility that Daryl was at Tiffany's.
Maybe he was smart enough to leave his phone at home.
Detectives believe they have a witness who may be able to place him at the scene.
From Carolyn's phone records, they're pretty sure that she was at Tiffany's apartment that night.
But when detectives bring Carolyn in for another round of questioning, she stands firm.
And she had denied.
They do turn the pressure up. They're asking her things like, do you also want to go down for murder with Daryl?
You know it's time. Deep inside you, you know it's time. What happened?
Oh, Jesus.
You ready?
I feel like I'm letting him down, man. I just don't want to get twisted up.
You feel like you're letting me down now? Silence is what lets me down. I know you're there. I know you're driving them. Oh, I know you are.
Izzy, listen, we have your car speeding away from the crime scene. We have these phone records that placed you there. So she's nervous. She's scared.
I just don't know why. I need you to tell me why. What happened?
She has a choice now. She has a choice to become a suspect or a cooperating government witness.
Backed into a corner, Carolyn finally breaks.
She completely backtracks on her first story.
Carolyn admitted that Daryl wasn't asleep when she left the house that night.
She claimed that Daryl forced her to take him to Tiffany's so he could confront her about the ongoing custody battle. She never expected him to shoot Tiffany. She just thought he was going to scare her.
Instead, she drove Daryl to murder his ex.
And you actually saw him pull the trigger and heard the first shot.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God!
Carolyn Strickland has just implicated her boyfriend, Daryl Williams, in the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Tiffany James, on Halloween night, 2015.
You actually witnessed Daryl aiming the firearm.
Yes, sir.
Carolyn actually confessed that she was at the scene. She drove Daryl to Tiffany's apartment.
Carolyn says she thought Daryl was going to confront Tiffany about the custody battle, and he wanted Carolyn to drive so Tiffany wouldn't recognize the car.
They got to Tiffany's apartment before midnight on Halloween night.
Like a hunter watching their prey, Carolyn told the detectives that they saw Tiffany drive up and park her car.
She goes on to tell the detectives that she saw Daryl pull the gun. Upon seeing that, she freaked.
Daryl, this is a bad idea. Let's just go.
She said Daryl walked right up to Tiffany and pointed the gun at her.
Oh, God!
Carolyn says she put the car in drive and sped away, leaving Daryl behind at the scene.
She drove around for she doesn't know how long in a state of panic.
She said when she got home, as she drove up, Daryl was walking up to her house.
But detectives don't entirely buy Carolyn's story.
Is there any reason why you didn't just tell us that day?
I was afraid for my life because I know what could have happened to me and what still can happen to me.
It is possible that she did not know what was going to occur, or maybe she was in on it. Maybe she wanted her gone just as much as Daryl did.
In the end, detectives and prosecutors offer Carolyn a deal in exchange for her testimony against Daryl.
So the state attorney's office and detectives got together and they determined that they were going to give immunity in exchange for her cooperation.
She takes the deal, giving detectives everything they need to arrest Daryl Williams.
On November 24th, they secure a warrant.
Yo, what's up? Daryl Williams? Yes, I'm here.
They find Daryl.
You're under arrest for the murder of Tiffany James.
They take him into custody.
What's this crap, man? That's the mother of my kids. I don't know. Man, y'all got this all wrong, man. That's my baby's mom.
When detectives bring Daryl in, he refuses to cooperate.
Daryl was charged with first-degree murder.
As prosecutors prepare for trial, they use physical evidence as well as witness testimony to piece together what happened on Halloween.
Halloween night, Tiffany goes up to her apartment complex with her 2 children.
And she was nearly to her apartment door. And then she spotted a masked assailant quickly approaching and carrying a shotgun.
Girls, go straight home. Run!
Her mother instinct kicked in, and she runs to keep Daryl away from the girls.
She ran to the neighbor's door to find help, but Daryl had already caught up to her. He shot her in the back, and the force of the shotgun propelled her forward into the door, causing it to fly open.
As Daryl took aim again, Tiffany rolled over to face him.
He stood over her while she lay there bleeding, pleading for her life. And he shot her again.
In February of 2021, with his trial fast approaching, Daryl's attorney unexpectedly approaches the prosecution seeking a plea deal.
Something with a first-degree murder that's called a PBL, punishable by life. By reducing it as second-degree murder, there's a whole lot of reasons why the state can determine that it's in the best interest of justice to offer a plea deal.
And at the end of the day, rather than going to trial, Daryl Williams entered a guilty plea, admitting to killing Tiffany James and accepting his 20-year sentence.
The 2 girls were not going to have to relive this and have to testify in any way, have to face their own father. I mean, the horror and terror of that, and then having to relive it years later for these girls. And so I think, in a sense, it was justice without having to make the girls go through that trauma again.
It's a tragic situation where, for all intents and purposes, a good mother was taken from this world by a bad man. And it is an unfortunate set of circumstances that was a result of a pattern of abuse. When he didn't get what he wanted, he took her life.
Every time you hear a horror story about a serial killer that sneaks up behind the bushes and murders people, the truth is the majority of murders are usually done by people you know. And unfortunately, this was just pure anger.
Pure anger that boiled over into senseless tragedy.
One thing that is so important is for this not just to be a story of domestic violence, but at the center is a beautiful young lady, young mother who loved her children, loved her life, and that was tragically taken. And so it's critical to honor.
After years of hard work, she finally had it all.
She has an amazing career, wonderful children, and this man who she loves and adores.
She was very happy.
She had a lot going for her.
Until it came to a sudden, shocking end.
It looks like she's been hit in the head.
There's blood everywhere. My mother was DOA.
I didn't have no words.
Had a ghost from her past come back to haunt her?
He was a raging alcoholic.
She just went through hell in that relationship.
Are you serious? I saw her be beaten. Or was the terrible truth hiding in plain sight? The signs are there.
They saw this might happen.
I was trying to warn my mom.
She'd be like, no, I'm fine.
That was like one of the worst heartbreaks.
Because he was so jealous. They have to live with that for the rest of their lives.
July 20th, 2017. It's a steamy summer night in Gwinnett County, Georgia, a booming suburban community just outside Atlanta.
The population in Gwinnett County has literally exploded in the last 4 decades.
People move here because you get so much more for your money. And so it's definitely become a family town.
You move to Gwinnett because you're safe. And this is a place that people could call home.
Help! But as a panic call to 911 reveals, no place is entirely safe.
911 receives a call from a woman. She tells the operator that her neighbor's 12-year-old son came knocking on her door.
He just came and rang the doorbell screaming and saying his mom, he just went in the mom's room. She's got blood everywhere.
This child is completely frantic and afraid and confused. So the neighbor then goes to the kid's house to help him and see what's going on.
In the bedroom, she finds the boy's mother, 46-year-old Erica Powell.
But I just know she has a lot of blood coming out her ear. Her nose is pouring out.
It is a completely gruesome scene.
Do you know what happened to her at all?
It looks like she's been hit in the head with something.
There's blood everywhere.
Does it look like she was shot?
I can't tell.
They ask her to begin CPR.
All right. Are you guys able to get her down to the floor?
But Erica's neighbor balks at the suggestion.
I can't.
To see her lying there, that's something that no one ever wants to have to go through.
And that's not the only reason she's frozen in fear.
Like, I don't even feel comfortable being in here.
You worried somebody else would be in the house?
Yeah, I am.
46-year-old Erica Powell had climbed high up the corporate ladder.
She was a high-level accountant for a big firm in Atlanta.
She was a hard worker, an educated woman.
And she had done it all while raising 6 children.
She always took care of us, made sure we was well fed, well taken care of, everything.
Never judged me, like unconditional love, like for real. And she was literally like an angel.
My mom was a beautiful person all around, inside and out.
But throughout her early 20s, Erica had had to struggle for everything she had achieved.
She had her 4 oldest children when she was very young.
I seen my mom jump through hurdles and go over obstacles, like real life obstacles.
She would literally turn $1 into 1,000 to make anything happen for her kids.
To see this strong Black woman working double jobs and stuff just to make sure we was fed and in school at the same time, that's unbelievable.
Although Erica hoped the load would become lighter when she met and married a man named Aaron Reed in 2000.
Everyone told my father not to do it because she had 4 kids already, and he still did it.
My mother's first husband, that is the only guy who I ever knew as a father.
During their marriage, Aaron and Erica added 2 more children to the family, making them a family of 8.
Good.
We had a lot of good moments.
But there were bad moments, too.
My father had a real serious, drinking issue.
It just turned into something that she wasn't expecting.
My first marriage, it was up and down. A lot of domestic violence, a lot of abuse, verbal and physically.
She decided that she very much wanted something different for her and her children.
After 10 years, she left her troubled marriage and took accounting classes at the local community college.
She didn't have a lot of resources. And so she would walk, she would take the bus, she would do whatever she needed to do so that she could meet that goal of attending school and getting that degree.
Nothing stopped her. If she said she wanted it, she got it.
Erica eventually got her bachelor's degree in accounting.
Soon after, she landed her dream job.
She was working for a Fortune 500 company. Things were really looking up for her.
But Erica still wanted more for herself and her children.
She continued to go to school.
She was going towards something bigger each and every time.
Soon, Erica had earned her master's in accounting and the promotion that went with it.
She making 6 figures.
She lived in a beautiful home here in Gwinnett County.
We came from nothing, so yeah, it's definitely a change, and it was change for the better.
But there was still one thing missing in Erica's busy life: a partner to share it with.
She'll bring guys around, but they'll be temporary.
She did have a lot of interests out there. And a couple of the guys that she dated that I knew were nice guys, you know, but it was just like, that's probably somebody that's just for right now.
But when she met Walter Lowe, something was different.
She was actually on a date with somebody else, and they caught each other's eye in the parking lot.
Excuse me, girl, but you know you could do better. Oh, really? Why don't you give me your phone and I'll give you my number?
He is a smooth talker, very charismatic.
A few dates later, they were inseparable.
From very early on, the two of them were completely crazy about each other.
Things were good. They were very affectionate.
I knew she was in love with Walter. I also heard him talk about how much he loved her. He was like, Keisha, I love this woman.
Before long, Walter had moved into Erica's suburban home.
It did make her a lot happier having someone around.
Erica's oldest kids were out of the house at this point. But her younger sons also appreciated having Walter around.
He was the father figure in the household. The other boys, I believe that, you know, they was cool with him.
Things were going really well. They were really happy. She felt like she finally had that love that she had been looking for.
And in July of 2016, they officially became a team.
They took a trip to Vegas. And during that trip, they decided to go ahead and get married at the very famous Little White Chapel there in Las Vegas.
She was just excited. She was happy.
This was everything that she wanted. She had an amazing career. She had amazing children. And now she had an amazing spouse to share this with.
But now police and EMTs are racing to Erica and Walter's suburban home.
A neighbor has just called 911 after finding Erica lying in a pool of blood.
She's not moving. She's not responding.
The neighbor also fears that whoever attacked Erica may still be in the house.
If you feel it's safe to go outside, you can go ahead and do that, okay?
Okay.
We've already got police and paramedics coming out as fast as they can.
Gwinnett County Police are on the scene within minutes.
They have to clear the home and make sure that there's no one else there.
But when officers give the all clear, there's little that EMTs can do.
They pronounce her dead at the scene.
However, unlike the neighbor who found her, the EMTs are able to tell how Erica died.
She had a gunshot wound to the head.
Erica had been murdered.
After her failed first marriage, single mother Erica Powell had built a thriving career and a new life with her second husband, Walter Lowe.
That was the happiest I've seen my mom in years.
Things had finally come together, and she had pretty much everything that she wanted.
But now, police have just found the 46-year-old mother of 6 brutally murdered.
While the neighbors said that it looked like she had been beaten over the head, What they actually find is a gunshot wound.
There was nothing that would suggest that there had been a physical altercation.
The victim was found laying prone on the bed, such a position that would suggest that she was asleep when she was murdered.
There's no weapon at the scene.
They found 2 9mm shell casings in the bedroom.
One shell casing was located near the foot of the bed.
When detectives arrive, they also locate a bullet fragment on the pillow near Erica's head.
There was a defect in the headboard where a projectile had struck.
Other than that, the crime scene offers few clues.
There wasn't much disarray within the bedroom. It looked like a normal bedroom.
They see that there are no signs of forced entry.
This established probable cause to believe that the person guilty of this crime knew the victim.
Hoping for a lead, detectives speak with Erica's son, who'd found his mother's body.
As you can imagine, the son is completely devastated when the police sit him down and tell him the awful news.
At the time, I was just speechless. I couldn't really. Everything was like a blur.
I know this is tough, but we're going to need your help so we can try to find the person who done this, okay?
Police ask the son to basically walk them through everything that happened before finding his mom dead.
Although still shaken, Erica's son walks detectives through the events leading up to that fateful moment.
It's a normal day. I'm going out and play basketball with my friends.
He came home just around 9 o'clock. He saw his mom's car there, so he knew that she was home.
I call out to my mom, and she ain't answer. I see a light on.
Mom, I'm home. He just assumed that maybe she had gotten home and taken a nap that wasn't unusual for her.
And I go into the living room and I watch movies.
Mackay says he had no idea anything was wrong until he went to tell his mom good night.
I look and I see her body right there with like blood and all that.
Mom? Oh my God.
And I didn't really cry at the moment. It was just like, oh, it's shocking. So if I ran out the house,
Mackay went and found an adult neighbor.
I think my mom's dead. And I started crying right there. And then they called the police.
For a 12-year-old to discover his mom dead, murdered, that's going to be something that he has to live with his entire life. It's going to be ingrained in his memory forever.
Finally, detectives ask Erica's son if anyone else lives in the house.
There were only 4 people that lived in that residence: Erica, her 2 sons, and Walter.
Were your brother and your stepdad here with you tonight?
No. He had not seen anyone else.
But just as detectives are about to ask how to get a hold of the boy's stepdad, there's a disturbance outside.
Okay, look, just sit tight. We're going to go see what's going on outside, okay? Be right back.
When detectives head outside to investigate, they find officers struggling to cuff a young man.
I just pulled up to the house. It was police everywhere. When I mean everywhere, it was crazy. And as I'm walking to my front door of the house, 2 cops tell me to stop and they rush me. So I get into an actual fight with them. They finally get me in handcuffs.
Let him go. I need to speak to him. Stand.
By the time Keon's released, word that police are at the house has spread among his siblings.
I received a call, and it came through something happened to your mom. And I hopped in my car when I got there, and I'm asking everyone there what's going on, where's my mother?
I'm Kiki, these are my brothers.
It was a lot of screaming, yelling, trying to find out what's going on.
Finally, the detectives gather Erica's older children together and give the horrifying answer.
They said, I'm sorry to inform you, your mother is deceased.
It was a lot of emotions.
I didn't have no words.
Under the circumstances, detectives have no choice but to postpone interviewing Erica's children.
The shock of knowing that their mother had been murdered and their youngest brother found her body, they couldn't contain themselves.
Instead, Investigators focused their efforts on contacting Erica's husband, Walter Lowe.
Walter Lowe? This is Detective Carter of the Gwinnett County Police Department.
Walter agrees to come down to the station and have a conversation with them.
The kids pretty much told me what happened. I just can't believe it.
Walter is completely shocked and devastated.
So, you would say y'all had a good relationship?
Absolutely. That was my babe. We were still...
Walter explains to the police that they had a whirlwind romance and that they were still very much in love with one another and that they were only 3 days away from their 1-year anniversary.
Where were you this evening?
I had some errands to run after work. I was on my way home when I got the call.
Okay. Do you know of anyone who may have wanted to hurt Erica?
Yes.
Who?
Walter immediately says yes.
If I were you guys, I would definitely look into the ex-husband.
Erica's ex-husband had abused her.
She just went through hell in that relationship.
Erica's husband, Walter, has just told the detectives investigating her murder that Erica's ex-husband may be responsible for her death.
If I were you guys, I would definitely look into the ex-husband.
Walter revealed that Erica suffered years of abuse from her ex-husband.
He was a raging alcoholic who was not only emotionally abusive, but also physically abusive.
I'm not your baby anymore.
You are my baby.
I saw my mom be pistol whipped. I saw her be beaten. I saw alcoholic beverages like glass bottles being thrown to the back of her head. And that was just typical.
It was rough. A lot of domestic violence, a lot of abuse, verbal and physically. I seen it with my own 2 eyes.
To this day, saying this about my dad, it's hard to say. It's very hard to say.
Erica had eventually found the strength to leave the relationship.
It was Erica just kind of really being concerned about her safety and her children's safety, as well as not wanting to continue this cycle of abuse.
And once she left, she never looked back.
When she finally got out of it, she was more aware of her surroundings, more alive.
It was a feeling of like, she's taking new steps.
But now, is it possible that Erica's horrible past has come back to haunt her?
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Appreciate your time. I want to show you out.
After talking to Walter, detectives dig into Erica's ex-husband, Aaron Reed's, police records.
What they find appears to confirm Walter's account of an abusive relationship.
There were 911 calls, which ended in the police actually being dispatched to their home.
I know the police was called. However, that didn't stop the cycle.
Leaving that relationship was very difficult. She actually had to secretly save money that she needed so that she could eventually leave that relationship.
Yeah, he could be our guy.
Definitely.
But when detectives received Erica's autopsy later that day, the results confirm that she never had a chance to escape her killer.
Look at this.
The angle of the bullet suggests that the person that did this was standing directly in front of Erica at the time they made the shot. She was executed right there in her sleep.
The medical examiner also pinpoints her time of death to between 7 and 9 p.m.
Her son had been in the house with his mom's body for 3 hours and didn't know.
That afternoon, detectives haul Erica's ex-husband, Aaron, in for questioning.
We have some questions about your ex-wife's murder.
I figured you would.
Unlike the others who learned of Erica's death, her ex-husband showed absolutely no emotion.
But according to Aaron, that doesn't mean he killed her.
When the police suggest that, he laughs and tells them that he had absolutely nothing to do with this.
We know all about your history with Erica.
Yes, how abusive you were.
That was a long time ago.
He says that he and Erica had not actually seen each other for a while.
My mom just continued to move on.
When was the last time you saw her, Aaron?
Not sure. A couple months ago? Not last night. No.
Aaron tells detectives that he was at work last night until 11 o'clock.
Detectives are suspicious, but with nothing to hold him on, they're forced to let him walk.
With his history of abuse towards Erica, though, checking his alibi will be their priority.
But that checked out. So there was absolutely no way that her ex-husband had anything to do with her death.
Just as the investigation appears to be at a dead end, Erica's close friend, Keisha Allen, arrives at the station and says she has vital information.
Thank you for coming in. You can have a seat.
Thank you. Anything for Erica.
She was a friend. She was family. She was just somebody that I can go to talk about anything with no judgment. Even without saying, I knew she was always in my corner.
And now it's Keisha's chance to return the favor.
There's something I think I should tell you about Erica and Walter.
Their idyllic life was not exactly what it seemed to be.
This was not a rosy relationship. It was very toxic.
I think he killed her.
Less than 48 hours after Erica Powell's murder,
I can tell something wasn't right.
her friend Keisha Allen has come forward with information about Erica's year-long marriage to Walter Lowe.
Keisha tells detectives that Erica and Walter's relationship appeared promising at first.
I'll give you my number.
When we would talk, she would tell me, I met this guy and you're gonna love him.
Instead, Keisha says that she had her doubts from the moment she met Walter.
He liked to dominate conversation. He was overbearing at times.
Keisha hadn't said anything to Erica at first.
I wanted her to be happy. I was like, okay, maybe it's just him.
But as time passed, Keisha became more and more troubled by her friend's relationship.
It came to a point where I would be like, why don't we meet and go have drinks and dinner like we used to? And she would be like, well, he wants to go. Why? Why we can't go ourselves? Even the rare times that we could meet up and it would just be us.
Kids are great.
Her phone was ringing every 15 minutes with him calling.
So, do you need to get the...
I gotta go.
We just got here.
It turned into what you always hear about, when somebody starts isolating somebody. We would go for like
I think he killed her.
to 8 months without even seeing each other.
Did Erica ever tell you about any abuse?
No, not directly, but I can tell something wasn't right.
She never expressed to me directly about any physical abuse. And I never witnessed any.
She never confronted Erica about her concerns either.
She loved him. And people say you can't make yourself not love someone, but it just got to the point where when I started feeling the distance between Erica and I, it hurt, It hurt.
And now you think Walter had something to do with Erica's murder?
Yes, definitely.
It's like hindsight is 20/20, And it's just like, wow, Wow.
Unsure what to make of Keisha's story, detectives reach out to Erica's adult children.
The night of the murder, they'd all been too distraught to talk to the police.
All right, I'm gonna go grab some paper.
Two of Erica's sons arrive first, and what they tell them is eye-opening.
Walter Lowe was an addict.
He was on drugs, like real, real bad.
What type of drugs did he use?
Heroin, cocaine, weed, a lot of everything.
According to Erica's sons, their mother had no idea at first.
He hid that from her for a long time.
And when Erica did find out, she did her best to help him kick the habit.
Erica wanted to support him in getting clean. She wanted him to get counseling and enter drug rehab.
But even with his wife's support, Walter never managed to quit using, and his behavior became more and more erratic.
He would have like real serious mood swings, like he was bipolar, you know?
He was just so doped up on drugs.
However, despite all the chaos they witnessed, Erica's sons never saw Walter physically assault their mother.
He didn't like do anything to her or nothing.
Although Erica's older sons weren't off limits.
Me and him had blows. We actually had physical altercation.
In one instance, the cops were called.
He was ultimately charged with family violence and obstruction because when he was taken into custody, he resisted arrest. And that's what led to the obstruction charge.
Walter even spent a few hours locked up before he made bail.
There was a no contact provision between Erica Powell and Walter Lowe as a condition of his bond.
Despite the order, Walter had written letters and left messages for Erica.
He keeps promising over and over and over again that he's going to change. Just give me one more chance. I'll never drink again. I'll never do cocaine again.
And when the case went to court, Erica intervened on Walter's behalf.
Erica asked the court and the district attorney's office to lift that no contact provision because she wished to have contact with Walter Lowe. Also submitted an affidavit to dismiss that case.
This case was very typical of many of our domestic cases. It's not uncommon for victims of domestic violence to come to the prosecutor's office, begging and pleading to have the charges dropped.
The victim wants this incident not to have taken place and to stay in their relationships.
But does his history mean it was Walter who'd taken Erica's life? As detectives are wrapping up their interview with Erica's sons, her daughter Kiki arrives at the station.
I was just talking to your brothers about some information about Walter.
But she tells police that she has no doubt who was responsible.
Just like the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, that was Walter.
He was truly evil, truly diabolical.
I knew he's going to kill my mom.
Erica Powell's daughter has just told Gwinnett County detectives that she's sure 51-year-old Walter Lowe is responsible for her mother's murder.
She was sick of dealing with that.
I always knew he was trouble. The energy, it was dark.
The couple had been married less than a year.
All my life, I saw my mom struggle with being in toxic, very unhealthy relationships with particular kind of men, abusive men, verbally, mentally, physically. So I was trying to warn my mom from day one.
But Kiki says that her mother resented her attempts to intervene.
She didn't like that I was speaking out against that relationship. And me and her got into a lot of fights behind it.
And when Walter did go to jail and convinced Erica to drop the charges against him, her daughter became so desperate that she even went behind her mother's back.
I was so mad. I was so upset with my mom. And that was the nail in the coffin for me. She actually reached out to the prosecutor and actually asked them to reinstate the protection order. She was adamant that if they didn't reinstate that protection order, that Walter would eventually kill her mother. Unfortunately, the prosecutor's hands were tied due to Erica's desire to have the protection order lifted. He has her wrapped around his fingers. She thought she could change the scenario. Erica always wanted to see the best in people.
And that is a trait that we sometimes see in our homicide victims. Wonderful, wonderful people whose only failure is that they're too trusting, too believing, and it's too difficult for them to stand up for themselves and take care of themselves and confront the abuser.
People who are abusers that have a great way of manipulating people and knowing how to make them feel bad so that they stay.
Despite that, Kiki says that her mother's marriage was soon on the rocks.
He turned out to be a bit of a deadbeat. Walter couldn't or wouldn't keep a job, and he really depended on Erica for financial support.
Was it just a drug thing, or did they have some other stuff going on between Walter and your mom?
And it was the drugs, and he leaned on her a lot financially. Honestly, I think she was just getting tired of funding his habit.
When he was on drugs, he was unmanageable and violent.
According to Kiki, things got so bad that her mother eventually admitted that she had been right about Walter all along.
She was reaching her limits and realizing that he is this toxic person.
She was ready to end her marriage.
Erica had had enough. She was done. Her plan was to buy a new house and to move so that she could be safe and create the life that she wanted for her family.
But Erica would never get the chance.
She had shared that she was divorcing Walter, and like 2 weeks from that day, she was killed.
She was so fed up. She just wanted our brothers to be safe.
Does that mean Walter killed her?
They resort to homicide because they don't see another way out of their inability to control. Homicide is the ultimate control.
Erica's children and the detectives are convinced. But is it enough for an arrest warrant?
At this point, everything the detectives have is circumstantial.
Although that could change when one of the couple's neighbors comes forward with what appears to be crucial information.
Thanks for coming in. So, what can you tell us?
Upon speaking to the neighbor, they did find out that Walter was actually pretty distraught for weeks because he thought that Erica was going to leave him.
He did not want it to happen.
He was very despondent with the idea that he was going to lose his marriage.
I saw him in the car a few nights ago, and he was drinking.
In fact, the neighbor says that on the night of the murder, he'd seen Walter sitting parked in the driveway outside Erica's house.
At about 8 p.m., a neighbor saw Walter sitting in the driveway of the house and walked up to have a conversation with Mr. Lowe.
Hey, what's up, man? You all right?
I messed up, man. It's over. You'll see.
At that time, the neighbor thought that Walter was just talking about the impending divorce. But now, those words carry a sinister meaning.
I don't know.
One of Erica Powell's neighbors has just informed police about a cryptic conversation he had with her husband, Walter Lowe, on the night of her murder.
He walked up to have a conversation with Mr. Lowe. Mr. Lowe was acting just crazy. He said, "It's all over, man. It's over. You'll see."
You'll see.
According to the neighbor, he spoke to Walter around 8 o'clock, which is within the coroner's window for time of death.
Coupled with what detectives have learned about Erica and Walter's relationship, an eyewitness placing him at the scene of the crime is enough for an arrest warrant.
He eventually turned himself in to Gwinnett County Jail.
He was represented by counsel and refused to give any statement whatsoever to the police about what had happened.
News of Walter's arrest is still a surprise for her close friends and family.
It kind of shocked me. It kind of surprised me when he did it. But I didn't put it past him, though, because I knew he was using drugs.
When she spoke about her abuse in the past, she would be like, I can't do that again. I can't go through that again. And so to know that she was going through it again is kind of crazy.
When the case goes on trial on August 6, 2018, Walter appears confident.
He was almost antagonistic. Walter Lowe, on several occasions, would mouth things to me as the prosecutor, to members of the audience.
It was one time in court where he actually, did this to me, the gun sign, in court.
The prosecutors begin by arguing that Walter's motive was simple.
Miss Powell wanted to leave.
He was absolutely desperate to keep her from leaving.
He was like, if I can't have you, no one will have you.
So on the night of the murder, when Walter saw that none of Erica's children were home, he made his move.
He went upstairs to the bedroom where Erica was sleeping.
He shot one time and he missed. The second shot, he didn't miss.
Soon after, a neighbor had seen Walter sitting outside the house.
At that point, the victim was already dead, and that explains the defendant's distraught and upset conduct.
In addition to the neighbor, prosecutors put Erica's daughter Kiki on the stand.
We wanted the jury to know what it was like to be in the presence of this couple when Erica was with us.
It was what you see with typical abusive relationship, how they try to personify themselves as the perfect relationship, perfect couple, and that wasn't true. It was fake. I saw through it.
Walter had been abusive and had been abusive for a while.
When it's the defense's turn, Walter takes the stand and gives his first account of what happened that night.
He admitted that they fought that night and that he knew that she was ready to move with the children.
Just listen.
Walter was desperate to convince her to stay and to give him another chance. But according to Walter, it was actually Erica who became violent.
She pulled the gun on him.
He wrestled it away and accidentally shot her.
He did this whole reenactment and started crying.
When I heard it, it was just like, what?
His defense, it was just a real circus.
The crime scene photographs, the physical evidence did not support that at all. There was no indication of a physical altercation. There was no indication that Erica even moved from her place in the bed. She was literally underneath the covers when she was shot. What he claimed took place that night simply could not have been true.
But will the jury buy Walter's tearful performance on the stand?
The jurors found Walter guilty.
He was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
The family was relieved.
He killed my mom in cold blood, and he deserves to rot for the rest of his life.
I was happy that justice was served.
However, no amount of prison time can fill the gaping hole Walter's senseless crime has left behind.
It affected the family in a major way. She was their mom. She was always there for them. Erica was the glue.
I want my mother being here with us, celebrating her life, having her 6-figure job and enjoying it, going on her shopping sprees like she loved.
I had all these great memories. It's like Jesus, it makes me appreciate life a lot more. And people who are good to me, it makes me treat them really, really good back.
And Erica's loved ones hope that other victims of domestic violence can learn from her story.
Just like my mom, don't feel like you're alone and don't feel like you have to hide it.
Get out, because you never know what's going to be that person's trigger where it won't be a next time.
They should make arrangements and then make sure that that abuser doesn't know that that decision has been made. It can be a fatal decision to let that abuser know.